I think this is a great opportunity for me to give my 2 cents on the SpaceX IPO and the multiple conversations I have had with one of my buddies in particular, and then another one of my college buddies who was also interested. Hopefully I won't be all over the place with my thoughts, but I'll say I'm gonna start with Tesla. The reason why Tesla / Elon and them, in my opinion, did not, cut this down a little bit, sorry, did not launch their robo-taxi is because, as you see, when they didn't launch their robo-taxi, the stock got sold off. And it got sold off obviously because people are trying to find some capital and taking some profits, depending on, what they bought their shares for, where it's currently at, which is around 380, 385, less than 400. But if Tesla / Elon and company had launched their robo-taxi, and let's say they have 6,000 vehicles running around, giving Waymo a run for their money, no issues. And on top of that, Europe is also approving FSD. Let's just assume all the positives that Tesla shares had gotten up to $600 or maybe even $700 a share. If they're selling now in the 450, 420 range to get it down to 380, 390, what do you think would have happened if Tesla shares had gotten up to $600, $700 a share? They were going to sell it. So it's technically in SpaceX's best interest that Tesla does not launch their robotaxi, does not show their Tesla bot, does not show the Roadster. The semis haven't started selling yet. China hasn't approved FSD. Only at this point, only 4 European countries, as you can see, navigating around these stopped cars. 4 countries in Europe have approved FSD, and the stock is still below $400 a share. Now, as far as buying these SpaceX shares, I think it's really interesting that a company like Fidelity, who had a $500,000 bare minimum requirement in your account, dropped it down from 500,000 to 2,000 so that more and more people can participate in the IPO. Now, one thing I didn't know is that you couldn't have a margin loan to buy the IPO. You had to actually have straight cash in there. And once again, only a few of these companies were even going to allow you to participate. Fidelity being one, E-Trade, who I have my personal account with, being another, and I know Robinhood. Of course, Robinhood ain't been around but so long, and that's really for the retail investor. So with SpaceX, what they did, which they don't normally do when you do an IPO, especially when they don't drop the minimum requirement in Fidelity from 500,000 down to 2,000, and Robinhood and so forth and so on. Usually retail don't get an opportunity to participate in the IPO, and they wonder why we can't create any generational wealth when there's opportunities like this, because you didn't do the work on the front end, needless to say. So it turns out that SpaceX valuation of 1.8 trillion is based on the fact that they have 13 billion shares available in total. And out of that 13 billion, if you multiply that by $135 a share, that's how you get your $1.8 trillion valuation. But out of that 13 billion, they're making 555,555,555 shares, 0.5 something, available in this IPO. So I had to, fortunately, I got an email from E-Trade that says, hey, if you're interested in participating in this IPO, follow this link, fill out this information. And I guess depending on how I fill out the information, let alone if I have the money in my account for the amount of shares that I'm trying to buy, which right now I put in for 100. I had to move some money around to make that happen. But I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow, when I guess they're going to ring the bell. Maybe Elon will be up there. And I will have an opportunity, hopefully, if E-Trade gets back in contact with me and say, one, you have enough money in your account, and two, we're going to make all 100 of those available. They may say we only make 50, we only make 20, but until I actually signed up to qualify or at least participate in what I would call almost like a lottery, I'm in the queue, and now tomorrow is when we find out. Now, then there's these three other concepts of how SpaceX and Tesla might merge together. SpaceX could buy Tesla, Tesla could buy SpaceX, or there's this thing called a merger of equals, which means that right now we know that SpaceX is valued at 1.8 based on $135 per share. But if it goes up in value, then you have to take that value, and multiply it by the amount of shares that they have available, and that will be the new valuation of SpaceX. And let's say it gets to 2.5 trillion. Well, hell, you're definitely more than what Tesla is worth at this point in time. So Tesla either got to launch their robo-taxi, start selling their semis, get more approvals, the stock value increases, multiply that stock value with the amount of shares that Tesla has in total, and then if it has a 2.8 trillion valuation, now you can merge the companies. So I suspect that come Monday, or even this weekend, since the IPO is tomorrow, we could see an increase in the amount of robo-taxis that get launched. Or it might happen on Monday. But I suspect that we will start to see some type of, positive catalyst movement coming from Tesla, and if they ever do merge, well, I'm good one way or the other. I already have Tesla shares. I would like to get SpaceX shares, and if they merge, it's a win-win. I still got Tesla. I might get SpaceX, even if they don't merge, and that's a long-term play on what can SpaceX potentially be in 10 years from now. I mean, I'll be 56 in October, so 66 is still a good time to be able to say to myself, my 66-year-old self, it's a good thing you bought that SpaceX stocks when you did. That's a nice little chunk of change you got sitting over there in your retirement account for you and babe. All right, that's my spiel. Y'all be blessed.